Good evening. Welcome. Salem Christmas has been a special event on the Zion Township prairie for most of the past 150 years. But because of the health risks we face posed by the coronavirus pandemic, Salem Christmas 2020 sadly has been canceled. In response to that dilemma, a few Salem supporters decided to apply their best efforts, despite their lack of experience, to producing a video that shares a brief history of Salem Church and the Salem Christmas Pageant. We hope it helps explain why the church and the pageant mean so much to so many people. First, the history. In the 1860s, German immigrants began arriving on the rolling prairie north of Paynesville in south central Stearns County, Minnesota. It is a place with expansive skies, strong winds, and bitterly cold winters. These immigrants were determined to create a better life for themselves than the lives they had left in their homeland. They brought with them an unrelenting will to carve out a living on the prairie soil and a fierce commitment to their Protestant faith. By collaborating with each other within their community, nearly all of them succeeded in their endeavors. Those same immigrants established Salem Evangelical Church and Cemetery in the early 1860s, which was incorporated in 1870 as a member of the Minnesota Conference of the Evangelical Association. The clapboard church building was built in 1871, which was sadly destroyed by a powerful summer storm in 1896. The yellow brick church that stands today across the street from Salem Cemetery was built and dedicated in 1897. In 1946, the Evangelical Association became, through merger, the Evangelical United Brethren Church, known as EUB. 22 years later, the EUB and Methodist churches merged to become the United Methodist Church. With that 1968 merger, the Salem Church building was closed and locked by the Minnesota Conference of the United Methodist Church, with Salem falling victim to consolidation. The cemetery, to the relief of the community, was left in the custody of the former Salem membership. The closing of Salem Church spelled the end of Salem Christmas. In 1970, former members who still controlled Salem Cemetery were permitted to purchase the church property from the conference for $1. A collective decision was made that the Cemetery Association would maintain the church building on a small budget, and it was maintained on such for the next 27 years. And then restoration. In 1997, a group of people who had grown up as children in Salem Church made the decision to initiate a fund drive to restore the old building to as much of its original form as possible. They were aided in their effort when Pioneer Public Television filmed a documentary narrated by the late author Bill Holm about Salem's history and the effort to restore the church building. Over the past 20-plus years, restoration has been successful with major work completed on stained glass windows, doors, the brick, the pews, heating and cooling, the roof, and through directly and beautifully installing handicap accessibility to the historic structure. The much-loved Salem Christmas Pageant that had been absent from Salem for 30 years was brought back to life in 1997. The pageant, which is presented every year on the Saturday before Christmas, routinely packs the church with an audience which comes from well beyond the local community. Memories. Throughout this video are excerpts and images from Salem Church and Cemetery. Here are a few of my personal memories. The farm. The sights and sounds of Christmas past live rich in my memory. There were 12 varieties of conifer trees growing on our farm, and my parents used the boughs of those trees to create beautiful holiday arrangements. The scent of fresh cut conifer remains a powerful therapeutic prescription for me to this very day. I loved the vastness of the prairie and the howling winds and stinging snow that raced down from the central Canadian provinces and across our homestead. But I was immensely grateful for the sense of security that came from the shelter of those conifer groves on our farm. I still remember walking to the barn with my mother on Christmas Eve to check on Dad's progress with milking. The sweet smell of the dairy barn is still vivid. Milk trickling through the stainless steel strainer that was nestled into the milk can that sat in the middle of our cinder block milk house. The smell of bedding straw and alfalfa hay. The sound of Dad milking by hand. The milk splashing off the bottom of the stainless steel bucket, then sloshing into milk as the bucket filled. Contented cows munching on corn silage and hay. Even though I don't remember feeling cold in the winters of my childhood, I distinctly remember the warmth of our farmhouse. The wood furnace in the middle of our basement burned hot, and the heat in its chamber, propelled by an electric fan, traveled quickly through ductwork, leading to every room in the house. Mother baked bread or pastries nearly every day, and there was both physical and spiritual warmth in our kitchen. The aroma of fresh bread filled our kitchen and our souls with the abundance we naturally crave as humans. Mother's baking radiated a warmth that mingled with our holiday spirit. Christmas Eve. And so it was every 24th of December on what was often a crystal clear night, when the star-lit skies of central Minnesota seemed within reach of a child's hand. After the chores were completed and the baths were taken, we would climb into the 51 Ford as a family and drive off to Salem Church to celebrate the birth of Jesus. As a child, and ever since, the Christmas celebration was the pinnacle of the year in both a religious and cultural sense. At Salem Church, the experience was embedded in the scent of pine and spruce and the flickering of candles and lights. It was rich with the innocence of childhood, experienced at a time when religious and social values were embedded in our cultural mores. It was a time when oat straw was readily available to lay at the altar for the reenactment of the scene at the birth of Christ, as interpreted in the New Testament reading of the books of Matthew and Luke.
This is the Christmas story from Luke 2, 1 through 20. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria, and everyone went to his own town to register. So Joseph also went up to the town from Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all of the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly a great company of the heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men on whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. Have a blessed Christmas.
It was our prairie church standing still on this holy night. Electric light and candlelight blended and filtered by stained glass, laying in uniform patches on the snow outside the church. Inside the church, the towering spruce, lit from peak to base, and all the trappings of the pageant, filling the church, filling our souls, filling the night. Silent Night, Holy Night, sung in German, then in English, and the candy, nuts, and apples awaiting beneath the tree. On a sacred night, these were sacred moments that became the core of those that lived them. finally our spiritual experience. I do remember in those festive days of celebration the quiet, clear nights of my childhood. Few farm families in our community left their yard lights on past 9 p.m. The bonus was the pitch black sky that would become a mesmerizing palette of endless crystal light. To understand the depths of the universe was unimaginable then, and if we are honest with ourselves, remains unimaginable today. I would sometimes go to bed as a child and lie awake trying to comprehend a never-ending universe. I was, of course, in a paradigm of thought, embedded in the desire to make sense of the concept of eternity. There is no beginning. There is no ending. Contemplation can be joyful and it can be painful. It can result in quick, easy answers, or it can take us humans into exhausting depths of inquiry into the soul of our humanity and its relationship to what might be. And when we who have sought answers and explanations come to the point in time where we expect conclusions to satisfy our own desire to know, it is faith, and almost universally faith in God, that gives us peace and a place of belonging within the paradigm of our existence, a place too profound to understand through reason. For those of us who are Christians, the ministry of Jesus of Nazareth holds answers to the unknown, answers that we can accept in faith and that can give us the peace we seek. I do believe that God is a God of love and that Jesus, the Prince of Peace, offers each and all of us the opportunity to embrace his values for the betterment of all that exists. And now, all these many years later, we who experienced Salem Christmas as children have worked to recreate it for a larger community through the historical Salem Church Foundation. Salem has been closed as a regular house of worship for more than 50 years. Despite that truth, the children of Salem have willed that their childhood Christmas experience be relived and replayed for all who wish to participate. In conclusion, the epilogue. The view from Salem of the surrounding prairie land is spectacular. The church, the cemetery, and the 2+ acres that surround them are sacred ground to an ever-growing bevy of supporters. The effort to preserve Salem and its legacy has been driven by love and an ethic of perseverance. It is an effort viewed by the community as a cultural contribution to the benefit of the society. Over these many years, your financial gifts have restored and properly maintained Salem Church as a historic religious entity serving a broad and diverse community. In the absence of a 2020 Christmas offering, we ask you to mail your Christmas offering to our board treasurer, Vicki Jenigas. The Salem Historical Church and Cemetery Association Incorporated is organized as a 501c3 nonprofit with the IRS. Contributions are tax deductible. Please make your gift payable to Historical Salem Church and mail it, as you see on your screen, to Vicki Jenigas, 38444 512th Avenue, Paynesville, Minnesota. We thank you for your continued support and wish you a Merry Christmas.